Here comes Louise. Hey, Louise, we're going to get started in a minute. We're just waiting for let a few more people in.
Sounds great. Nice to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. So did anybody have any hail today at their house? I heard there were some storms.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm in Hillsboro. We got very little rain.
Oh, I could use the rain. I started a bunch
Yeah.
of seeds and I'm having to go out there every day and water them.
Mm.
All right, well, I think what I'll do, just in the interest of time, I'll just talk very slowly and do the introduction, and then we'll get into our program for the evening. But so this is our 5th class, and the reason why I made this one virtual is because we just realized there were so many people, so many different departments that wanted to present, and it just seemed easier to do a whole bunch in one night. I am recording this, so if you don't want to be recorded, just turn off your camera. All right, and so tonight we're going to hear from a bunch of departments, from 5 departments. 2 of our department directors actually have to be at our Board of County Commissioners meeting tonight at 7, so they're going first. Very busy people. So first we're going to hear from Kate Fenhagen, and she has several roles right now. One of them is Deputy County Manager. Okay, whoever's making that noise, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Okay, thank you. All right. Anyway, so she has got 2 roles right now, I believe, Deputy County Manager and then Director of Criminal Justice Resource Department. It's a really great department, doing a lot of innovative stuff. So she'll go first, and we're going to give her about 20 minutes. And the idea is that she'll present, and then we'll leave some time for questions, because I know you'll have questions. I'll be sending you all these presentations afterwards. Then next we'll hear from Amy Eckberg. She is the head of the sustainability program, and this is in the county manager's office. And we have a climate action plan, and she and her staff are rolling this out and are doing a lot of stuff that make me very proud to live in Orange County. A lot of innovative things that will help with climate change. Then we'll hear from my old boss, Quintana Stewart, at 6:45. She is the director of the Orange County Health Department. There's Taylor. Same thing. She'll just go over the services and we'll have time for questions. They've got 5 divisions, so, and over 100 employees, so she's got a lot to cover. And then next we'll hear from Lindsay Shoemaker at 7:05. She's the director of the Department of Social Services. That's an even bigger department. I think they've got like maybe 140 people, a bunch of divisions, and she'll cover what they do. And then lastly, we'll hear from transportation. And Jamel, who's been in our cohort, he was the first one, and I can't remember if he's been in any other ones, but he works for the transportation department. So okay, with that, I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to make sure everybody can see. So when I pull it up, if you could just let me know, can you see my screen? You should see a logo of CJRD. Yes, okay, great. I see nodding. Awesome. All right, because we are not able to figure out how to get Kate to share, what I'm going to do is she's going to talk and she'll just say next slide every time she wants me to advance. So Kate, take it over.
All right, thanks, Kristen, and good evening. As Kristen mentioned, I'm in transition a little bit. I am still the Criminal Justice Resource Department Director here in Orange County, and I have been since the department was created back in 2015. But I'm also now the Deputy County Manager, so we're in the process of hiring a new director for the CJRD. And after you hear this presentation, if you or anybody else comes to mind as a great applicant, there's 2 more weeks that this job is posted, and it is just I mean, this is very unbiased. It is by far the best department in the county with the greatest staff. So, and incredibly rewarding work. So, I am very sad not to be leading it beyond the next month or so, but I love being able to tout the work that this department does, and I hope you all will be interested because it is kind of a unique department to Orange County. There's not one exactly like it in any other county, and most counties don't even have a criminal justice resource department. So it really speaks to the commitment to Orange County, to making sure that we support folks in our community who are at risk of being justice impacted, or are in the court systems, or in our detention center, or are returning from incarceration back to our community. So we'll talk a little bit more about the details. If you can go to the next slide, Kristen. So our mission is to support and increase jail alternatives, to look for opportunities for diversion from the criminal legal system, and provide treatment needs, assessment, and programming for justice impacted individuals, with the objective of reducing the numbers of individuals who are diagnosed with mental illness and substance use disorders in detention, safely and successfully reducing overall rates of justice involvement and pretrial incarceration, reducing recidivism and harm, and addressing racial and economic disparities. We seek to ensure a productive collaboration between the county and the court system stakeholders that promotes the sharing of information and implementation of evidence-based and equitable best practices and programs. So that is a mouthful of a mission. But I think you get the gist of what we're trying to do. And we started in 2015 with 3 people, myself and our pretrial services director and our treatment court coordinator. We've since grown to about 22 staff members and about 9 different programs that serve the community. So we have the pretrial services program. We have a clinical coordinator, a licensed clinical social worker, and clinical addiction specialist. We have a clinical youth behavioral health liaison. We have 4 different pre-arrest deflection and diversion programs. We have 2 treatment courts. We oversee the local reentry council. We share with the housing department the street outreach, harm reduction, and deflection program. Some of you may have heard of SORAD. That's its acronym. The Lantern Project, the CCDR team, and a restoration legal counsel. And I'll just briefly describe what all of these programs and folks do in the next few slides, but there's a lot more detail in the in this PowerPoint, so you'll have a copy of that and you can dig a little bit deeper. But if you can go to the next slide, that would be great. Okay, so these are just sort of our guiding principles. When this department was created by the county commissioners back in 2015, it was because they were building a new detention center, that detention center that's out on Highway 70. I don't know if you've had a chance to, I'm sure you've driven past it if you haven't actually been for a tour. But at the time, there was a lot of debate between making this a much bigger detention center, given population growth. And then there was a lot of arguments against making it bigger and looking at ways to, reduce the pretrial detention rate here in Orange County by looking at alternatives and therapeutic responses and other ideas. Of course, only where it's safe to do so, not for violent offenses or serious charges. Those folks are still going to our detention center. But what we were seeing at our detention center, and we still to some degree see, is a lot of folks who are coming in and out of our detention center because they can't afford a very low monetary bond in our cash bail system. And folks who have underlying behavioral health issues, substance use, mental illness, often both, who are committing low-level offenses, often because they're unsheltered or are lacking other services that they need. And so they're sort of revolving in and out of our court system. They're not really presenting a danger to the community, but they're ending up in our jail because law enforcement doesn't have a lot of alternative options for what to do. So we look at reimagining the criminal justice system. We look at deflecting people from coming into the system altogether. So deflecting them as they never come into the system, like a police officer finds somebody committing a low-level offense like panhandling or something like that and decides that they're just going to give a warm handoff to a social worker and not charge them. That would be a deflection. Diversion is diverting them from the criminal justice system. So they're in the system, and then the district attorney or judge asks for them to be diverted out of the system. Harm reduction and therapeutic interventions, that's, really about meeting people where they are when they come into the criminal justice system and seeking to reduce harm. If it's substance use, it might mean that we give them naloxone, which is to prevent an overdose. It might be that we, try to help them understand the severity of their addiction and what treatment options might be available. Reducing unnecessary pretrial detention, just sort of what I talked about. We don't want people in our detention center that don't need to be there. If people have low-level offenses and very serious mental health issues, we expect that they will deteriorate. It is not a place where they're going to get adequate behavioral health care. And we also don't want to keep people in on $100 bond because they simply can't afford a $100 bond. And yet a person who comes in on a trafficking cocaine charge, which could carry a significant amount of prison time, is able to make a $50,000 bond because they have the resources to do so. So we want to make sure we're actually keeping people in the detention center who are should be in our detention center because they present a risk to the community. We're looking at alternatives to incarceration. We're looking at supporting people when they come out of incarceration. 90% of all people who go to prison come back into our community. So wanting to make sure that they successfully integrate back into the community, they become productive citizens, have jobs. With a criminal record, that's obviously very challenging, but there's lots of support here in Orange County for folks that do have those barriers. And then legal restoration is similar to that, trying to help people overcome the barriers that they have in place, such as, they've lost their driver's license because of court involvement. They've lost their ability to vote, helping them get their voting rights back once they're off their sentence is complete. Expunging records that are eligible to be expunged so that employers aren't looking at a long list of charges on somebody's record that they were never convicted of. Next slide. So these are the detailed notes that I talked about with reference to the program. So I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, but you can see that pretrial services is at the top of the list. That is when I talked about people coming into our detention center, they are entitled, come in front of a magistrate, then they see a judge within 24 hours, sometimes that day or at worse the next day, to set a release condition. And our pretrial coordinator goes in every morning to the detention center, interviews everybody, looks at their needs, what connections they have to the community so that he can provide information to the judge at 2 o'clock. Those hearings are held every day at 2 o'clock. And our stakeholders are there, our district attorney, our public defender, and our district court judges. And each person has a write-up that is provided to all the parties so that they have a little bit more information about the person that's in front of them and can make a much more informed decision about their release conditions, whether it's going to be a release with a written promise to appear, or whether it's going to be a secured bond of $10,000. It really helps inform them about the risks and the needs of the individual. And they also judges often put conditions like they want them to get a mental health assessment, or they might want them to work on getting their driver's license while they're waiting for their case to be tried. So pretrial release also takes folks under their supervision. So if a judge feels like a person needs a little bit of additional help in getting to court and helping them with some other needs, they can put them on pretrial supervision while their case is pending. That's not a monetary condition. It's simply a supervision condition that they have to check in and that they have to work with the pretrial services program. We have clinicians who work in our detention center with folks who come in, as well as folks in the community that may come into our court system. We see about 85% of people who come into our detention center have self-reported behavioral health issues. I mean, that is not unique to Orange County. That is across the country. That is who comes into our detention centers for the most part. The courts, it's not as stark as that, but there's still a significant number of people in the court system who never come into the detention center, but who have behavioral health issues. So that has become more and more part of the work of our department. So we also have youth behavioral health, that is clinicians who work specifically with people under 17 who are in juvenile court. Our recovery courts are specialty courts that folks who have very serious, high risk, high need substance use disorders come into these courts. They're long-term courts. They go on for approximately a year. We have two different kinds. We have recovery court, which is for people charged with criminal charges who are facing at least 120 days in jail. And then we have family treatment court, which is for parents or guardians who've lost custody of their children due to substance use and are seeking to regain their parental rights. And so both of those courts are staffed by people in my office who actually have lived experience of substance use themselves and are peer support specialists. So that is if you ever have a chance to come and observe that court, it's a really interesting court. It's a very supportive court. Again, it's not a abstinence immediately type court. It's about helping people recognize their needs and getting the treatment that they need, but not understanding that addiction is not, a straight line up. It often involves ups and downs along the way. So, and the whole team that serves that court really understands the nature of addiction and how to sort of use accountability, but also support to hopefully lead people to that long-term recovery, which helps them avoid any incarceration and reunites their families. Next slide. These are some other ones. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our pre-arrest and deflection programs in a second. As I talked about, the local reentry council, that is the coordinator and case manager who work with people coming out of incarceration that often come out with absolutely nothing. No housing, no family to come home to, a criminal record that creates a barrier to getting a job. And so the needs, and sometimes even just any basic needs, when you are released from prison, you are released with what you came in with, and that's it. You don't get a stipend or anything like that. So you come back into our community, often courtesy of the probation parole department, and you're dropped off. There's an attempt to try to get housing plan in place, but that often does not happen. And so our reentry council works to get people emergency shelter and housing and to help them get back on their feet and work towards longer term goals after that. Youth Build works with high risk youth in the community, just kids who have pretty serious charges, who are in need of some significant intervention beyond just sort of coming to court and being held accountable, but really somebody who's going to go into their lives with their families, with their go to their appointments, go to school with them, just really intensive type of case management that has proved to be much more successful than just sort of court appearances. And then our street outreach team that works with folks who are unsheltered, that helps connect them to housing services, but also harm reduction needs and behavioral health interventions. And then the Restoration Legal Counsel is an attorney who works specifically to help with driver's license restoration from and reducing fines and fees that people can't pay in court and expunctions of records where people are eligible. Next slide. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. This is just, you can see this is a little bit about the different eligibility requirements for some of the deflection and diversion programs. You can go to the next slide. One of the things I want to highlight about some of our deflection and diversion programs are the success rates. For OC-PAD, since we started that, that's for first offenders who are given an opportunity not to have a charge at all on their record, because even a charge on your record will have an impact in your future for employment, housing, So we serve a lot of UNC students, a lot of people later in high school. And because they're first offenders, they're given this opportunity to go into some dedicated programming for about 90 days that meets their needs. And if they complete that, then they never actually get a charge. This program served over 1,000 people since 2019, and it's well over 90%. It's actually around 95% success rate. Next slide. The Lantern Project is similarly a deflection and diversion program, meaning we keep people either from being arrested or by law enforcement and participation in the program, or we divert them from the court system, the traditional court system, and we work on getting them substance use treatment and recovery. And if they comply and engage, again, it's not abstinence necessarily, but if they are engaged with the programming, then their case never gets charged, or they get a reduction in their charges or a dismissal of the charge. Next slide. The CCDR team is the newest deflection and diversion program, and that's a kind of a unique program where we have a clinician coordinator in the CJRD, and then we have embedded social workers in each of the law enforcement agencies in Orange County. And then we have a separate clinician and peer support specialist, and we provide wraparound supports through deflection and diversion for some of our folks with the most serious and persistent mental illness in the community. And again, it's not one size fits all. It's very individualized by the person and their needs. But there are, as you know and are well aware, if you've driven through Hillsborough or Chapel Hill, I mean, you've seen people who are exhibiting signs of schizophrenia or other mental illness. And we are trying to keep them out of the court system, trying to get them engaged with mental health providers. But, it is always a challenge, and we cannot force somebody into treatment. And so often, their mental illness leads them to committing an offense that ends up in the detention center. But we try to get people out as quickly as possible from the detention center and back into a therapeutic environment where it's safe to do so. But this is sort of a wraparound team, but you'll see the theme here of our law enforcement agencies are very involved in this work. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. Because they're the ones who divert and deflect people to our clinicians and our social workers. And so without their support, we wouldn't be able to do it. So this is something that I think is growing around the country as an understanding that the court system is not, we're not going to arrest our way out of crime. We're not going to save people by arresting them. How do we get them the interventions that are going to be the most likely to succeed for them? Next slide. And I'm going to, let's see, trying to remember what is the next one.
Yeah, so I was just going to tell you that
We're
it's
done.
3 minutes from your ending time, which
Okay.
I know I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for people to ask questions. And if they don't have any questions, but I want to get you and Amy to the meeting on time.
Thank you. Yes.
And any questions from the group about all this that Kate has had to say? And you can just unmute and just speak.
Where are y'all located? Where are the offices?
That's a good question. So we're in the courthouse primarily. Our local reentry council staff is in the Whitted building, and our street outreach team is in a Chapel Hill office to be near Franklin Street. But the rest of us the team is in the bottom of the courthouse, right by the Superior Courtroom. So we're pretty embedded in the work of the courthouse.
Okay.
And we have a little office at the detention center too.
Did you say how many total people were in your office now?
I think it's 22. Yeah, and that includes a couple of temp staff who've been helping, especially while I've been over here in the manager's office.
Tim always likes to ask, what is your budget? What's your total budget?
It's a little over 1.3 million, and we do have a lot of funding from outside sources. So we get funding from Alliance Healthcare, we get funding from North Carolina DHHS, we get funding from the ABC board. So it's a bit of a mixture of funding for this department.
Are any of
Any
your
other
funds at
questions?
risk because of the NCDHHS monies from the
Yeah.
federal government? Are they at risk?
Well, thank you for the slide you see right there, the CCDR team. Actually, we got a stop work order on March 25th because of the $12 billion that was stopped by the Federal Department of Health and Human Services that flowed through the state. And we were told, we got the notice on the 25th of March for it ending on the 24th, so a day after it had already ended. So we were actually the first department, I think, to get notification of a, with a stop work order, but fortunately, the program was funded through this fiscal year, and so the social workers in each of the law enforcement agencies, the towns had already agreed to pick those positions up, and the county had already agreed to pick up the county position. So we've been able to continue the work, but without the addition, the positions have all been continued because the towns have agreed to fund them to the bridge to the July 1st. But we don't have the same amount of funding to support the program that we did when we had the grant. So, but yeah. So, and fortunately, I don't think we have the CARE team, which is a mobile crisis unit that is funded through DHHS as well. And we've been worried that would be at risk, but so far, knock on wood, we haven't heard anything. So I think the rest of our programs should be safe. But it's a really concerning time for the work that we do in terms of from the federal level, and which flows through the states often.
So, Caitlin, are you an attorney?
I am. Yeah, I was a public defender and a capital defender before I came to this position. So yeah, I miss criminal defense work, but it's really nice to be working with people before they're facing a very serious charge, certainly like a capital offense where the damage is already done, and now I get to try to do things up front that hopefully will help keep people from facing that type of a situation. So it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, it's a great program. I appreciate you taking the time to share what you're doing. This is fabulous.
Oh, thank you for saying that. That's so kind. And yeah, please, there's a few other slides, not so much about the programs, but other things that the office does. So feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have, or if you want to come and visit a court session of any kind, let me know. I'd be happy to coordinate that for you.
Oh, thank you, Kate, and thank you for all your good work. Good luck at the meeting tonight.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. All right. Now we're going to turn it over to Amy Ekberg.
Okay, everybody see my screen okay?
Mhm.
Excellent. All right, well, good evening, everyone. And let me start off by saying Happy Earth Day. How appropriate is it that I am here talking about sustainability and our climate action plan? So really excited to be here. A little bit about me. I have been with the county for 3 years. And as Kristen mentioned earlier on, I'm housed in the county manager's office, but our work really takes us throughout all the different departments throughout Orange County. For the first 2 years that I was with Orange County, I was a one-woman show. However, I've been very fortunate to be able to add to our sustainability team. Last year, actually on this day, we welcomed Mel Gillis, who is our sustainability analyst. And we have been fortunate to have Karina Neighbors also on our staff in a part-time capacity. And the 2 pictures below on the screen are from our wonderful interns. Every semester, we have hosted amazing interns from the UNC Chapel Hill Eco Studio internship program. And this semester, we are joined by Annie Jorgensen and Hugo Tan, and they have been really amplifying the work that we do through a variety of different programs that they've been working on. Annie's been working on an anti-idling initiative for us, and Hugo's been really instrumental in spearheading some heat mapping and a tree planting project for us. So their work is extremely impactful, and we are just really excited to be able to mentor youth who are interested in this field and hopefully turn them on into a clean energy career in the future. When asked to develop this presentation for you all, Kristen said to think of something that you're proud of. So my immediate thought was the climate action plan that I developed the first year that I was here. So that's going to be the bulk of my presentation to you tonight, talking about how we created that, why we created it, and some of the programs that we're doing to implement the strategies that are in the climate action plan. So before I get into that, I thought I'd just start by level setting kind of where we are globally and locally when it comes to the impacts of climate change. So we know that fossil fuels, namely coal, oil, and gas, are our largest contributors of greenhouse gas emissions that are impacting global climate. In fact, the world is warming faster now than at any other point in recorded history. Last year was the hottest year ever on record, and the past 10 years have been the 10 hottest years in almost 200 years of record keeping. And I like to show this climate stripe map because I think it's just visually a great representation of how hot our climate has gotten, especially in the past 20 years. Now here locally in Orange County, some of the impacts that we're seeing is that we've been in a drought for almost 50% of the time from 2000 to 2018. We're also experiencing more and more days of extreme heat, and these are days when the temperature is at or above 95 degrees, and that number is expected to increase by up to 30 by the middle of the century. We're also experiencing, as you know, more and more extreme weather events. All this warmer air is leading to heavier rainfall, which leads to flooding. We're also experiencing more hurricanes and tornadoes, really damaging storms. And of course, the health impacts are also incredibly impactful. All of this extreme heat is very harmful to our most vulnerable populations, the elderly, those with cardiovascular and respiratory illness, and even healthy people are extremely impacted by the extreme heat that we're experiencing. And then with Orange County, we have a very robust agriculture community. And of course, they are also highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change and are already experiencing crop damage from flooding, heat, and drought. So as the scientists have all been telling us for many, many years, the next few years are absolutely critical to limiting temperatures to 1.5 degree increase and mitigating the most severe impacts of climate change. And all this is why we needed to develop a climate action plan. And we did. So the first year that I was here, I worked on a climate action plan with a consultant and the help of many, many community members. This plan is the result of a lot of community engagement. We reached out to local businesses, we reached out to the schools, to nonprofits, really anybody that we could talk to. Our ag community also had a big part of, providing input into the climate action plan. Now we've been doing some good things over the years prior to the development of this plan. We've been installing solar. We've been working on transitioning our internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, but we didn't have an overarching plan. But this plan gives us that. It's like a roadmap, so to speak, to allow us to achieve our overarching climate goals, which are to get to 100% renewable energy by 2050, to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by half by 2030 and 100% by 2050. So our plan is broken up into 5 main focus areas, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these focus areas here in a minute and provide you with some examples of what we're doing. But we've got transportation, our built environment and energy, resource conservation, resilient community, and green community as our 5 focus areas. And within those focus areas, we have a combined total of 70 strategies and 156 associated actions. So we've got a lot of work to do. I did want to mention that this is not going to be a static plan. It's going to be updated frequently as new technologies come online to help us combat climate change. We know that we're going to need to make changes pretty frequently. So our plan right now is to do that every 5 years and update our plan. We also have a public-facing dashboard that's available on our website for anybody who's interested to track our plan's progress. You can go online and check that out. And then another way to make sure that we're staying on target is we plan to do a greenhouse gas inventory every 2 years. We're due to have one done by the end of this year, so that's something that we'll be tackling in the next several months or so. So I thought I'd start off with our first focus area, which is transportation. Transportation is actually the largest source of our greenhouse gas emissions in Orange County at 43%. So we have a lot of strategies and associated actions to drive down emissions from the transportation sector. And these are just some that I wanted to highlight from the Climate Action Plan. We're really excited that we've developed a cadre of folks that are electric vehicle drivers and are willing to share their experience with Orange County residents. So we call them EV ambassadors, and they have participated in several of our events. They'll be coming to the upcoming Earth Evening event this Friday. They also participated in a National Drive Electric Week, which is a national campaign offered all throughout the country that Orange County participated in last fall. And this is just a low-key way for residents to come and find out what it's like to drive an electric vehicle. They can ask questions like, how do you charge it? How much does it cost? And what's it like to drive an EV? And it's just a really low pressure, low key way to get questions answered. It really beats going to a car dealership and getting that hard sell from a car dealer. So they've been really instrumental in just providing a lot of great information about electric vehicles in our community. And I think I mentioned early on that one of our interns, Annie, has been helping us with an anti-idling program and campaign. And so we've created some window clings that we're going to be putting in all of our county vehicles just to remind folks when you're not driving your vehicle, please don't idle. We want you to turn that key. And there's so many benefits to doing so. You're going to save gas, you're going to create better air quality, and you're going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we're getting ready to roll out a countywide policy about anti-idling, as well as a required training program for all of our staff to take. And hopefully we can bubble this campaign into our schools and then also the community at large. We are continuing to grow our electric vehicle fleet. Right now, we're at 22 vehicles and growing. And we also have currently 23 public EV chargers that are available to use currently at no charge. All right, so the next focus area that I wanted to talk about was built environment and energy. And we've got a lot of really exciting things happening here. We're getting ready to roll out a solar feasibility study. And this is going to allow us to evaluate all of the county facilities that we have under our purview to see which would be good candidates to add solar to. So we anticipate this study being done in the next 6 months or so. We also participated in the really popular Solarize the Triangle program. This was a 2-year program that ended in 2023. And this was basically designed to serve as a group purchasing program. So the more people that signed up to the program, the lower the cost of the solar. And we really were able to provide a lot of folks with an accessible resource and program to be able to get solar added to their residential and even commercial businesses. All in all, we had 68 total contracts signed here in Orange County, which equals 1.15 million pounds of greenhouse gas emissions avoided annually. So we're really happy about that. And we're looking to capitalize on the popularity of the Solarize the Triangle and spin it off and focus on an electrify program with the same concept, more people that sign up, the lower the cost it will be. And with this program, we're looking to provide services such as electric appliances, EV chargers for folks if they've just recently purchased an electric vehicle, just anything to electrify the home and to get us off of natural gas. And then here in the county, we've been working hard on also transitioning to LED lights. And we did 4 buildings this year, which we're really proud of. And that's going to save the county almost $25,000 annually in electric bills. And last thing, I just wanted to point out that we're looking forward to kind of exploring what agrivoltaics could mean for Orange County. We have an incubator farm called Breeze Farm here in Orange County that really serves as a farm that demonstrates sustainable practices for farmers. And one thing that we would love to be able to pilot is agrivoltaics. And if you're not familiar with what that means, it's basically harnessing the sun twice, once to grow crops and once to get renewable energy. So we think that this can be a great resiliency measure too for Orange County to be able to protect some of the crops from extreme heat. And also to help the soil retain moisture. So it's got a lot of co-benefits to that. So we just are looking for some funding to help us get that off the ground. And then our next focus area is resource conservation. And here we've been really excited to be able to offer some programs that will help us to reduce our waste. Our Solid Waste Services Department has a Road to Zero Waste plan that they're working on. And one way that we are partnering with them is to really promote our repair cafes. And so these are just events that we hold. They're free of charge, and anybody that has something in their garage or their house that's broken, we don't want it to go in the landfill. We want to fix it instead. So anything that folks can carry, we can fix. We're not looking at appliances. Don't bring your washer and dryer in. But if you have a broken watch or a broken lamp or a broken coffee maker, we've got expert coaches that can fix all this stuff. So last fall, we had almost 70 guests and 58 repairs, and we just finished another repair cafe in March with 75 guests and 85 repairs. So it's proving to be a very popular program that we'll continue to offer in the next coming years. And then we also partner with Triangle E-Cycling, and this is a really great partnership with a local business to be able to offload all of our used laptops and desktops. And what they do is they refurbish these, and they bring in students to provide them with the experience of refurbishing them. So they're giving them some real world skills that they can put on their resume, some IT skills, and then they resell them out into the community at a very affordable cost. So we're really proud to be able to participate in this program. Some other things that we've been working on is a green caterer list, so that when we host events here in Orange County, we make them as sustainable as we possibly can by participating with restaurants that procure their food from local farmers and also that don't have a lot of plastic waste. And then Sustainable Swag is another resource that we have for county departments when they're looking to do outreach events. They're not giving away single-use items, but they're giving away things that are actually useful. Like I know our planning department just gave away some reusable bags, which are extremely popular at our Ag Summit. So that was awesome. And then finally, we did do a Sustainable Business Toolkit this year, and this is a wonderful resource for local businesses. It provides links to opportunities to help with free energy audits. Information about the Solarize a Triangle program was on there, ways that they can reduce their energy, water consumption, and even plant native trees. So it's all in there.
So Amy, I know
Am I
you
running
probably
late?
Well, it's 6:43, and
Oh.
we got you till
Okay.
6:45, and I know you have to get to the meeting. So I guess I want to just pause here because you guys have so much going on. But I know they're going to have questions. So I just
Okay.
want to pause for a minute and see if people have got some questions for Amy. I will be sharing all these presentations and their contact information.
I can just talk forever. There was one slide, and it'll be shared, but it's 8 things that you can do. We
Mm.
kind of tried to distill our list down just to, if people only have like, 5 seconds to look at something, they can get a read from this slide to see the 8 impactful things that you can do individually to make a difference with climate change and to be more sustainable. So it's things like, going to thrift stores and composting. So take a look at that slide. I think you'll get
Yeah, and I
some
put
good tips
that
and
in the
ideas.
newsletter too. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I was maybe surprised that you didn't touch on e-bikes or just regular bikes more. Is there a big e-bike initiative and recycling of e-bikes and that sort of thing in the county? Are you looking at that?
Yeah, actually, our friends over at Town of Chapel Hill are actually getting ready to roll out a e-bike loaner program. So we're very excited about that. And it's going to function just like the library, where you can go and check out a book, you can go and check out an e-bike. But yeah, e-bikes is something that we've been talking about, and we actually had somebody submit a grant to us through our Community Climate Action Grant Program for an e-bike pilot program. It unfortunately did not get funded, but it is something that we're having conversations about here in Orange County.
You may know there's a great company called Upway that's just coming to the U.S. that does recycling of e-bikes and tries to make them a lot more affordable. That'd be an interesting partnership given the universities in the area.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good luck with your meeting tonight, Amy. Thank you for all you do. And like I said, I will share her presentation, and you have any questions afterwards, we can answer them via email, okay?
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. All right, next up is Quintana Stewart. How are you, Quintana?
I'm good. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving me some time to come and speak with you all today. As Kristen knows, we've been doing this a while, but I really had to cut the slides, so I'm going to stick to my time, just 20 minutes. Well, 15 minutes. I should get it in time for questions. You want me to
Thank you.
share my screen?
If you are able to share, it'll be easier. So, but otherwise, if you're able to
Okay.
share, go for it. Yeah.
All right, let me see.
If not, I've got it pulled up. Oh, there you go. All right.
Uh-oh. Okay, now I got to navigate so I can see you all.
And we can see too. We can see your thing, just so you know.
Okay, so you can see the screen.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
Sorry,
concerning to
guys.
not see the people, though. I know.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, okay.
So are you seeing the full presentation or the
full? Yeah.
The full present? Okay. All right. Well, good evening. I am Quintana Stewart. I get the pleasure of serving as the Orange County Public Health Director. Been here for almost December will make 8 years. Time is flying. And so real quickly, I'm just going to give broad overview, background information about the department, describe some of our services, and then Kristen gave us a few prompts. So hot topics, things we're most misunderstood about, and such. So here we go. So to start with, I want to share our vision and mission statement. Our department recently went through a strategic planning process, but our Board of Health adopted a vision statement. We did not have one prior to 2023, but the vision for our services here in public health are to create the conditions for everyone in the county to experience the highest attainable standard of health. So that is subjective because I know each individual will have a different standard of health. So we just want everybody to attain their highest standard. Our mission at the health department is to promote and protect health, enhance quality of life, and preserve the environment, again, for everyone in Orange County. Out of our recent strategic planning process, the department came up with some core values that we operate by. And again, I didn't select the values, but these were the values selected by our entire team. So over 100 staff folks. We had focus groups, we did surveys. And so the team actually identified these values as some of the core values that we feel we bring to the workplace each and every day when we show up to serve. And so there are 7. Accountability is 1, equity, innovation, teamwork, respect, integrity, and adaptability. I won't spend the time reading through it because as Kristen said, I know she's going to share the slides with you all. So But those are our core values that we identify here at Public Health. The health department is governed by the Board of Health. So that is the governing body for the public health department. I do still have a reporting relationship with the county manager's office and the Board of County Commissioners. However, the governing body for the health department is the Board of Health. Board of Health is made up of 11 members that are appointed by the county commissioners. Their membership is prescribed by state law. And so the 11-member body must include 3 at-large members, so 3 members of the general population, general community. And then we have professional representatives that are required to serve, and they include an engineer, a dentist, a physician, a nurse, optometrist, a pharmacist, and a veterinarian. The members, to be a member of the Board of Health, you have to be an Orange County resident. And all of our meetings are open to the public. We meet every month except for the month of July and December, and our meetings are usually held on the 4th Wednesday of each month. Some of the powers and duties of the Board of Health, they appoint the local health director. So I have 11 bosses. That's 11 different personalities that I report to. It is fun, it is challenging, but it is very rewarding. The board also makes policy and adopts rules for the agency. They adjudicate any disputes regarding our local rules or locally imposed public health administrative penalties and fines. This mostly speaks to our environmental health department. They are the heavy regulatory arm of the work that we do in public health. And then the Board of Health, they actually review and approve our local fees for services. So the Orange County Health Department, we're made up of approximately 116 staff. We are housed at 3 different locations throughout the county. And so our primary hub is here in Hillsborough on Tryon Street at the Whitted Building. We also have staff that work over at the Southern Human Services Complex over in Chapel Hill off of Homestead Road. And then our environmental health staff work at West Campus over on Margaret Lane in Hillsborough. For those in the area, it is the building that also houses planning and inspections. It's also the building that sits right behind or adjacent to the Weaver Street Market. So the organizational structure of the health department, we're divided into 5 divisions, finance and administration. And I'm gonna talk about each a little bit over the next couple of slides. Community Health Services Division, Personal Health Services Division, Dental Health, and Environmental Health. Overall budget for the health department this fiscal year, we operate just at $13 million, a little over. About 70% of our budget is county funds appropriations, so local appropriations. And the bulk of that really covers salary for our staff. And then our revenue streams, about 57% are service fees and reimbursements that we get from fee for some of our services, reimbursements when we bill insurance. And then some of it, about 40%, comes from state and federal funds. So these are pass-through dollars from CDC, North Carolina Department of Public Health, and that is also set up through some agreement addenda. So we get a certain amount of monies, but we have some deliverables, some things that we must do to remain in compliance with state statute, state law, and we get some funding to support some of that work. And then a small percentage comes from some grant funds, and an even smaller percentage from some donations. We have a program called Family Success Alliance, and we have a few community members and 1 or 2 local churches that sometimes send us a donation. So the next 2 slides, this is actually a copy of our health department brochure. Probably looks familiar to Kristen, as she once was a part of our team as our communications manager, and she developed this draft. This brochure is found on our county website, and I'm very proud to say that we have it translated in 7 different languages. That is a point of pride for us. We try to put our information out in the native language of many of our residents. And so if you go to our site, you can find this brochure in English, Spanish, Arabic, Burmese, Chinese, Karen, and Kinyarwanda. I know I messed that up, Kinyarwanda. But these are some of the languages spoken by some of our residents throughout the county. So we wanted to make the information accessible and understandable for them. This first page talks heavily about our personal health services division. Again, this is home to our medical clinic. And so you can see on the screen, we provide primary care services for adults and children. We provide family planning services, communicable disease services, behavioral health services, and then also some nutrition services. In addition to that, we also provide some maternal health services for those members of our community looking to, that have recently decided to extend their families and experience childbirth. And then we have a refugee health clinic as well, where we see and provide examinations for immigrants and refugees that resettle in our community. And then we also have a dental health clinic here at Whitted site in Hillsborough. So that's our brick and mortar dental clinic. Again, it's a full service dental clinic. We send out for things for labs such as dentures and partials. We don't do that here in-house, but everything else we do in-house. We accept most dental insurances, and then we also have a sliding fee scale for residents that come to receive services that are uninsured. Dental clinic is really growing and doing great work here in the county. We have our environmental health division. Again, I spoke about them earlier. This is the heavy regulatory arm of the department. And so they are really broken up into three main program areas. And so they have a food and lodging division. So these are the health inspectors that go out and they do inspections and education for our retail food establishments, the child care centers, the schools, the hotels and other lodging facilities, summer camps whenever they open. And then they also, again, provide lots of education for the community. So when restaurants have staff, they also are responsible for coordinating and set up some of the Serve Safe sanitation classes that they can take and earn some extra points on their grade for the restaurant. We have an on-site wastewater program. And so these are the specialists that really handle our wells and septic systems, those permits. They also come out and work with contractors on installation of septic systems and, wells. So they're very busy. This group also does our annual pool inspections whenever the public swimming pools are opening up each year. They go out and inspect to make sure those are safe for our use throughout pool season. Community Health Services is the 5th division. And so they are my family home visiting team. And so this group includes nurses and social workers that actually go out and do home visit with families. 2 programs. We have they call it CMHART, but it's care management for high-risk pregnancy, and then CMMARC, and that is care management for at-risk children. So this would be for families that have children under the age of 5 with some chronic conditions that require some specialized care and follow-up. It is also home to our Family Success Alliance program. Again, this program was created, oh my gosh, almost 15 years ago. They've been around a while. And again, this program was created to help some of our most vulnerable community members that cycle in and out of poverty. So it is open to any county resident that is experiencing poverty, and they work with a navigator. And so navigators will go out and do some home visits, some special case management to help the families identify a medical home and a dental home. And then they also help them navigate other needed services in the community, such as housing needs, if there's some needs at the school district, some additional tutoring services or behavioral health, mental health services. So the navigators really are some connectors throughout the community to some very valuable resources. And the brochure does not talk about our finance and administrative division. However, I consider those folks to be the backbone of public health and what we do. So they really service internal staff. We are their big clients. And so this is where my finance and budget folks are located, my HR liaisons, my IT folks. So they make sure the rest of the team have what we need so we can go out and provide the services in the community. So those are the 5 divisions for the health department. Kristen asked us to talk about a hidden gem. And so I decided to highlight our mobile dental unit. We took receipt of this unit back in 2020. So we got it right before the COVID pandemic started. So early March of 2020, we took receipt of the mobile unit. And unfortunately, it had to sit for a couple of years because we were not able to perform and take it out on the road to offer the services. So this is a hidden gem that is now fully functional and operational throughout the county. I gave you just a few pictures so you can see it. We're really proud of it. Right now, this unit is parked at the Southern Human Services, our site in Chapel Hill of Homestead. We see patients at least once a day at that site in Chapel Hill so that folks don't have to drive all the way up to Hillsborough to the brick and mortar dental clinic. But anymore, we are now out in the community for outreach. So we are out in some of our elementary schools and providing services. And so it's quite a robust operation, but we're looking to expand it. So far, we've been out to Central Elementary and New Hope Elementary in the Hillsborough area. And so we send home permission slips to parents. And so they have to approve to allow us to see the child during the school day. But the hope is that we could close the gap between parents having to take off work, parents that may not have transportation and bring the child into the dental clinic for services. So we're hoping to get the elementary school children on a routine kind of schedule of these 6-month appointments and services. So if we can prevent some dental issues, we also know that that improves attendance and performance at school. Children are pretty miserable when they have pain in their mouth dealing with dental issues, or they have to miss because of going to a dental appointment. And so we thought it was a win-win, and so far it has been received really well. I would say our first outing out at Central Elementary School, we weren't sure about the response and how folks were going to come back with the forms. So we only scheduled half a day. We learned quickly we need to schedule 2 full days because the demand was great. So it has been received really well. Great feedback from school staff and parents. They're really appreciative of it. So this is our hidden gem. It is available. We do requests for health fairs and other community events if you would like for us to come out. We went out last summer to some summer camps. And so also just to give children a tour so we can relieve some anxiety around going to the dentist and fears associated with that. So it has been really well received in the community. We take all insurances, including Medicaid. Again, as I said earlier, patients without dental insurance, they can be put on the sliding fee scale where they, fall. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and just talk from the slides. But patients without dental insurance pay on a sliding fee scale based on their income. And so most of our patients fall on the 20% of that, meaning their minimum payment would be $40. And so that is our hidden gem. Hot topic. I would be remiss if I did not talk about measles, because I know that is on a lot of folks' mind right now when we talk about public health. So I pulled some of this data fresh off the press just today so I could give you the most current stats. And so the measles outbreak that originated in Western Texas has now reached about 624 cases, with just 27 new cases being confirmed over the last 5 days. As of last Friday, CDC reported or confirmed that we have now about 800 cases resulting from this outbreak in at least 27 states. Sorry, I think I was getting ready to start telling you guys about the last 3 states. And so just within the last week, Louisiana, Missouri, and Virginia all reported their first measles case in 2025. I do want to note No confirmed cases as of yet in North Carolina. However, we are not standing around with our heads buried in the sand. It's not a matter of if, probably a matter of when will we get it. With everybody in the increased travel, I will tell you, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, we are preparing for when we receive our first case. Among the nationwide cases confirmed by CDC, about 97% of the people who contract measles were unvaccinated or their vaccination status is unknown. So in public health, we still recommend measles vaccination, MMR. We know that it works. And so in Orange County, we are preparing for a measles symposium. Originally, this was scheduled for February 21st, but if you all recall, that was the day that we got some snow. And so county operations was closed and we had to reschedule. So our measles symposium is now going to happen on Friday, May the 30th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're interested and want to know more about it, you can go to our website and you can register and come to attend. We are doing this in collaboration with some of our partners over at UNC. And so the goal is we just want to educate the community. Specifically, we want to educate providers, child care providers, teachers. We want everyone to be familiar with what some of the signs and symptoms are of measles and what they need to do if they suspect that someone has measles in their setting. And so that is the hot topic. So I want folks to know that we are paying attention and we are prepared to address measles if it should show up in our community. And then one last thing, kind of a misunderstanding of local public health. I feel like since COVID, we have been in this battle of disinformation, misinformation for the last few years. And so one misunderstanding about public health is that we are only concerned with communicable disease and vaccinations. And that is just not true. We do lots of health promotion, health prevention type activities here at Public Health. So we are concerned about the entire community. Holistic approach to health is what we aspire to address in local public health. A lot of folks think of public health as being only government and regulatory folks. Now, there are some things that we have to do by law, again, to protect the population's health and the whole community. However, we do government regulation and, like I said, we are concerned about the community as a whole. So we do both of these things. We often have to find the balance between fixing a community problem versus personal responsibility for action. And some of that came out, I would say, during the COVID pandemic. And so while some control measures were put in place, and I think several individuals felt like we were restricting their personal freedoms to move about and do things, it was all with respect to trying to protect the population or the community as a whole. I would say I was very pleased and to serve as the health director in Orange County during the pandemic. We had very high vaccination rates in our county. And what I saw from the community was a true, genuine care and concern to take care of not only our own families, but also our neighbors. But that was the rub. This is the balancing act that we often have to do with in public health. And then public health, again, is for the entire population, not just the uninsured or underinsured. I would say early on in my career, I had lots of folks. I used to work in Forsyth County, and the health department kind of had a stigma, and they said, no, that's just where poor people go or where people that don't have insurance go. And that is just a myth. That's not true. Again, we are here to serve the entire community. We accept all of the major insurance companies, Medicaid, Medicare. And again, we're also here as a safety net for those that do not have insurance or they don't have enough coverage with their current insurance plan. And so, Kristen, how did I do on time? But I can stop.
You did great. I was really driving hard on the other two because I knew they needed to get to the BOCC meeting.
Gotcha.
So now time for questions. She said a lot, and I'm sure you have some questions.
Do you have any contingency plans for potential cuts to your budget based on what's happening at the federal level? And how is that planning taking place?
Yeah. Um, so yes, unfortunately, we are having to think through some contingencies if we experience cuts from the federal budget allocations. And so right now, what we're doing, I'm meeting with county manager, talking with all of my division leaders, and really just figuring out where can we cut some excess. I would say a priority, we would like to keep services whole in general. But being realistic, I understand if we may have to scale back and maybe reduce the amount of activities we are doing out in the community. But in general, I'm looking at, well, what are my mandated services, things I have to do to be in compliance with the law and general statute, versus what are some of the feel good things that we just do because of goodwill, and we know it provides, great prevention measures. So that is that's the unfortunate task of the day.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Quintana? All right, well, as I said, I'll share her presentation, and if you think of questions after she leaves, I'll convey them to her. But thank you, Quintana. I appreciate
Thank
you, and I
you.
appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
And yeah, all right, well, have a good
Have a
rest
good
of your
night.
night.
You too.
All right. All right, and next, social services. So this is Lindsay Shoemaker. And when I was working at the health department, the social services department, I always in my head thought of as our sister department because we were working with so many of the same folks and had so many of the same missions. So I will let Lindsay take it away, and we'll save some time at the end for questions.
All right. Hi, everyone. Can you guys see this presentation okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Never sure what mode it loads in. So I know you guys have had a full evening already. So I will just tell you, this is a presentation that I do when we have new county commissioners. It's kind of my roadshow. So it highlights a lot of our mandated programs and services, but it doesn't go into huge detail. So if you have questions once we're done, feel free to ask or feel free to reach out afterward. I will just add to what Kristen said. I have been in this role for 6 months. So I am the new social services director, but I have been with the county for more than 20 years. So and almost all of, well, actually all of that is with the Department of Social Services. So I am still learning. We are a huge department and we have a lot of different programs and services. So we have, when I did this a couple months ago, we had 192 total positions, which includes full-time, part-time, temporary, time-limited staff. We're located in 3 buildings throughout the county. So we have an office in Hillsborough on Mayo Street, the old Walmart up there. We have an office in Chapel Hill at Southern Human Services off of Homestead Road. And just very recently, we have office space and employment services programs located in the Drakeford Library Complex in downtown Carrboro. And that's a beautiful building. I don't know if you guys have been there yet, but it's a lovely place. And we have employment services, which we'll talk more about in a minute. We have a budget, not to show up Quintana, but we manage a budget of over $26 million. About half of that is county funds. So most years, I feel really, really good about how the Department of Social Services has so much state and federal funding in our budget. This year, I am less excited about that because obviously there's some risk happening at that level for a lot of our funds. In addition to the budget that includes state, federal, and county funds, we're also responsible for over $187 million in benefits. So when I'm talking about that type of money, we're looking at Medicaid, we're looking at food nutrition services, child care subsidy. There's millions of dollars that our staff are responsible for managing, most of which comes back into the county. So when you think about food nutrition services, those funds get spent at our grocery stores. Medicaid recipients spend Medicaid dollars at UNC Hospital. So we like to tell people that we are a great economic investment for the county because most dollars that come into social services end up bringing in multiple dollars into the local economy. So we administer more than 28 programs, and that is if you don't count the 22 different Medicaid programs that we administer. We provide services. I know a lot of people, when they think about social services, you think, okay, low income, vulnerable folks. But the reality is we provide services to about 18% of the county's total population. So we serve over 27,000 Orange County residents each year. So Quintana talked a little bit about her board relationship, and social services is very similar. This graphic represents all of the different partners and relationships that the Department of Social Services has. So we interact with the Board of County Commissioners, but they don't supervise me. So I'm also supervised by my own board. So that's the Social Services Board, and it's a volunteer board that has 5 members. 2 are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, and 2 are appointed by the State Social Services Commission. The 5th member is appointed by the other 4. So those are who my bosses are. But we also have relationships with the Department of Health and Human Services, which includes the Division of Social Services, the Division of Health Benefits, regulatory services. I'm definitely missing someone, mental health. So we have a lot of relationships with state agencies because they provide a lot of our funding and they provide a lot of our rules. We also have relationships with other county departments, as Kristen mentioned, like health and housing. We have relationships with the court system. So our judicial district handles a lot of our child protective services cases, for example. We have a good relationship with Durham Tech, so we partner with them in our employment services. So that's where you'll see the community college system. We partner with local municipalities, our LME MCO, which is our managed care organization, different nonprofits, utilities, contractors. So we have all of these different relationships that we're trying to manage in addition to all of the programs. So here's where I'm going to go fairly quickly, unless you stop me, through our mandated social services programs. And when I say mandated, most of these are outlined in statute, Statute 108A. If you are really bored one night and want to read all of the statutory language that governs what we do at social services, a lot of it is going to be able to be found in 108A. 7B is our statute for child welfare. But that's really going to be where you'll find all of our mandated programs. And while our programs are mandated, the state doesn't fund a lot of them at a high level. So they tell us that we have to do this, but most of the funding comes from the federal government and from the county. So I'm going to go through these rather quickly. But again, feel free to raise your hand and ask me to slow down if you have specific questions. So food nutrition services, it used to be called food stamps, so that's what people know it as, but it provides a monthly allotment of benefits issued on an EBT card, looks just like a debit card that you can use at the grocery store. So the amount that people get is determined by their income and their household size. And this is one of those misconceptions that sometimes in the community, well, what can people buy with EBT? It is generally fresh foods, processed foods, any kind of normal grocery store food. You cannot buy hot foods. You can't buy diapers, you can't buy alcohol. So there are significant restrictions to that, but it is really meant to be a supplementary food source for families who are struggling to make ends meet. Medicaid. So this is it's a hot topic right now, for good and for bad reasons, I think. But Medicaid is the health insurance program for low-income individuals. North Carolina Medicaid, we'd already talked about this, but it has more than 20 program categories. And now with Medicaid expansion, we cover everybody through pregnant women all the way up to end-of-life care. So if you are struggling for health insurance now in North Carolina, and you make under 200% of the federal poverty level, we probably have a Medicaid program for you. Medicaid expansion happened in late 2024, December 2024. So we have just finished up our first full year of Medicaid expansion, and we have added about 4,700 Orange County residents to our Medicaid rolls. And for a lot of those folks, it was the first time they had had health insurance in a long, long time. All right, so here are our two energy programs. This is the Low Income Energy Assistance Program and the Crisis Intervention Program. These are federal dollars that come into the county and help people pay their heating and cooling bills. The Low Income Energy Assistance Program is only run in the winter and is just to help people pay costs of heating bills. The Crisis Intervention Program is all year long and can help pay heating or cooling costs. Just a fun fact, these are the programs that they're talking about cutting at the federal level. Orange County receives normally about $700,000 in these crisis funds from the federal government that all go directly against people's utility bills in Orange County. So that would be a pretty significant cut. And this is one of those departments where the federal government has laid off everyone in that department. And so the assumption is that this funding may not exist going into next year. Work First is the name of North Carolina's TANF program, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. So it's a time-limited cash assistance benefit to low-income families. So you have to have a children in your home under age 18. And emergency assistance that's associated with Work First can help with rental assistance, utility assistance. This program is really for families who do not have any employment, just to help them get back on their feet. So it comes with a lot of employment services to help families be able to get back to self-sufficiency. Child care subsidy is just what it says, that we can provide vouchers that help subsidize the cost of childcare. So the cost of childcare in Orange County for an infant, for example, can run families more than $1,400 a month. And so those costs are extremely difficult to meet depending on what your wages are. So childcare subsidy is a way for low-income families to put their children in safe learning environments. It helps employment, but it also supports early childhood education because childcare subsidy funds can only be used to pay for high-quality childcare, which is childcare who received 3, 4, or 5 stars and are licensed. So Child Protective Services, I think that's one of the ones that a lot of people know happens at social services. This is another one of those statutory mandates. And so we provide services 24/7. So for children who are at risk for abuse, neglect, or dependency, everybody, including all of you, can and should make referrals if you see a child that you think is at risk. And then we do the screening and provide in-home support to families that may be struggling with parenting needs, and then provide out-of-home placement when necessary to protect children. So foster care is our out-of-home placement. So if a child is unable to remain safely in the home, we would place them out of home with either relatives or with licensed foster families. And the goal for most children is reunification with their birth family. So while that child is in foster care, our social workers continue to work with the birth family to try to make progress so that that child can safely return home. The LINKS program is kind of an offshoot of our foster care program that helps teach independent living skills to children in foster care between 13 and 18 years of age, because those children are likely, in some cases, to age out without achieving permanency. And so we want them to be able to be successful if they need to live on their own without additional support from their family. And then adoption services, that's a legal process. If a child is unable to return home, we would terminate parental rights, and then we would look to place them in a permanent situation. It's normally a foster parent that will then adopt that child and become their permanent family. Adult protective services. So we've talked about how we protect children. This is how we protect vulnerable adults. We have adult protective services and other adult services where we screen in reports of abuse, neglect, or exploitation when we're talking about older and disabled adults. We investigate those allegations. And in adult protective services, it's really about providing services to enable that adult to live safely. So one of the referrals that we can get in adult protective services is self-neglect. So that is when somebody is unable to care properly for themselves. And our goal when we get involved with somebody is to just help create a situation where they can continue to live safely. So it's It's a little different than what we do in child protective services, because in adult protective services, the opinion and the will of the adult that's involved matters a lot. We care a lot about what somebody wants to do with their life. And if they have capacity, they don't have to consent to services with us. So that's kind of a common misconception. And then we have a lot of other adult services that, again, just help to protect adults and keep them safely at home. We can help with placement services. We can connect older adults to other services like in-home aides to help maintain their safety. Guardianship. So the Department of Social Services, and technically me as the director, I can be appointed as a legal guardian by the clerk of court for an adult who does not have anyone else that can make decisions for them. So the Department of Social Services is the only disinterested public guardian in the state of North Carolina now. And so when we have adults who are not able to make their own decisions and need ongoing protection, the clerk of court can name, it's officially me, as their guardian. We currently have about 55 people under guardianship in Orange County. And then our social workers make sure that their bills are paid and that they're safe. And we deal with their placement and everything that you would do for a loved one that you were caring for. That becomes our job. And then the Adolescent Parenting Program is another mandated program, and that is where we work with pregnant and parenting teens in both school systems to delay a second pregnancy and to finish high school. So we have social work staff that are involved in that program. The good news in North Carolina, at least for the last probably 20 years, is that we've seen pretty significant declines in the number of teen pregnancies. So we still have some, and we still run this program, but the numbers have definitely declined over the years. So that was very quickly through our mandated programs and services, and wanted to just mention this slide because Orange County, in addition to offering all those mandated programs and services, we offer another array of programs that really complement those mandated services. And some of these are really prevention based because, as you can hear, a lot of the things we do, we're intervening when people are in crisis. So we have children in crisis, adults in crisis, families who can't meet basic needs. So these are services that we offer that both enhance those other services and try to prevent people from getting into those situations to begin with. So Smart Start subsidy is just another form of childcare subsidy. So we manage that in Orange County. The Youth Enhancement Fund actually can provide summer camps, summer sports, actually sports during the whole year for kids that you don't have to be involved in DSS custody in any way. You just have to meet income guidelines. And that's a way to help our kids be in safe, coordinated activities, can give families respite. You know, if you've got, I know I have 3 boys and I always want to put them in soccer, get them out, get them doing something so they don't drive me crazy. So our youth enhancement funds can help with things like that. We offer emergency assistance where we can pay somebody's rent for a month, pay their water bill, help with a disconnect fee. Again, we want to keep families from spiraling into crisis, because if I were ever to give a TED Talk, it would be on how expensive it is to be poor. And I think Kristen knows this. She's heard me do this before, but it's just a snowball effect. When you can't make a payment on something, then you get a late fee, then you get a disconnect. And so these programs, emergency assistance, serves to try to help be a little bit of a buffer to that. So we can help with those reconnects, we can help with those late fees and get families caught back up. We also have a food pantry at actually both of our main locations, and we'll probably have one at Drakeford here shortly, where folks can come in. And if you just need a little bit more food to get to the end of the month, we can help with that. We are a partner with the Diaper Bank, so we can provide diapers and feminine hygiene products to families that would struggle to afford those. Again, really just to kind of help you make it to the end of the month. It's not diapers forever for your kid, but when you're struggling and just need a little extra help, you can come to see us. For the holidays, we provide toys to any child in Orange County.
Leave this.
Did you have a question?
I don't know how to use the chat.
Oh. I was going to say you can ask a question if you have one.
No,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm in a a hospital right now, and I need to log off.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
go for it. All right.
Sorry
No
about that.
worries, no worries, no worries.
I know some of my stuff is depressing. Hopefully nobody's logging off for that reason. But yeah, for our holiday program, we can provide toys to any child in Orange County under 200% of poverty. And we do a big program every year. We serve usually 2,000 to 3,000 children in that program. And then we have our career center employment services like the Drakeford, which we'll talk about in a minute. We administer a couple of workforce innovation and opportunity grants through the Department of Social Service. One is for adults and dislocated workers, and one is a youth employment grant. We also run More Than a Job NC, which used to be the Food Nutrition Employment and Training Program. And we also administer funds for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. So those are some other fun things we do. And then this is when I'm in person, I like to do this as a quiz to see if anybody can get any of these, but it's way more awkward virtually. So a few other services that people don't always realize Alicia, good question about Friends. Let me circle back to that in just a second, because they are a terrific community supporter of ours. They're a nonprofit. Other services you may not have realized we provide. We do fishing license waivers. We help with repatriation. So if you get stuck in a foreign country and you're out of money, they will call us and we will help get you home. We also handle unclaimed bodies. So if we have somebody who's deceased in Orange County and we cannot find a next of kin, that becomes our responsibility. We do all of the disaster sheltering and mass feeding and mass care for Orange County. So if you ever have to go to a shelter because of a hurricane or an ice storm, any other kind of weather event, and you think, who are the staff that are running that? That would be us. And then we also will do voter registration. Anytime you come to our building, we will ask you if you're currently registered to vote, where you live, and if you're not, could we help you register to vote today? So I know Kristen had asked us to talk about something that's a gym and something that we're nervous about. I can't exactly remember. Quintana did it way better than me. I'm going to call them issues and opportunities because that's what I went with. These are things I talk about almost everywhere I go, and kind of our main issues. I will say the federal funding uncertainty and program changes is a new addition to my list, but that is clearly an issue that we are very concerned about and that we are watching very closely. We have ongoing issues in child welfare with finding enough placements and behavioral health services for children. And so that has become a bigger and bigger problem in the world of social services over the last few years. And we have similar problems with our aging and adult protective services. It is difficult to find the right types of supports for folks engaged in those programs and services. And then in terms of opportunities, the Drakeford Library Complex and Employment Services Center is, again, brand new, 203 South Greensboro Street. Lovely, beautiful library. And then if you go to the second and third floor, the second floor has classrooms that social services and Durham Tech Community College that we kind of co-locate and run, and you can take a variety of classes there. And then on the third floor, we have an employment services center where you can get help with resume building, applying for jobs. We have a clothing closet. So, if you are going to your first interview in years and you don't have a suit and you can't afford to buy one, we can help with that. So that all happens there. We have an employment services center at our Mayo Street location as well. That's called Orange Works. And then, of course, Medicaid expansion is one we've been really excited about. And we're going to just stay really optimistic that nothing bad happens there. But like I already said, we've managed to enroll over 4,700 Orange County residents in the first year. And then all of those letters that now that I'm reading this look like alphabet soup because they make sense to me and not anyone else probably. We are very bad about that in social services. But where you see CFSP and Path NC, of course, everybody knows what that is. I kid, I'm sure you don't. Path NC is the new child welfare system that is going to better integrate services in a technology platform. And so that rolls out this year. So we are really excited about bringing some of our child welfare programming in terms of the technology into this century, because we have definitely not been there in that service area. And then the CFSP is a new Medicaid program for children who are in in-home services or in foster care, and it's run by Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and it rolls out at the end of this year. So we're looking at December of 2025. And that will have integrated health and behavioral health services for children involved with child welfare. So those are two huge child welfare projects that are coming this year that we really have high hopes about. So those are the things we're excited about. And I'm going to go to my question slide so that if you want to write down my email address so that you can ask me questions later, you'll have it. And to Alicia's question, Friends of Orange County. So we are so lucky in Orange County in so many ways. But we have a partnership with Friends of Orange County Department of Social Services, so Friends of DSS, and they are a nonprofit organization that we've partnered with since I've been at DSS. So this is probably going on 25 years at least. And they just help us fill in the gaps because we have state and federal and county funds. And like I said, we have $26 million in funding, but those funds are all sort of special and they have to be used for special things. And if you need to buy a car seat for a baby or a crib because you have a foster parent who is taking their first small child into their home and they don't have a crib, those are hard things for us to buy. And they're hard things for us to buy quickly because we're government, and that is inherently going to come with some level of bureaucracy. But Friends of DSS has partnered with us to provide that stuff for us. So they can help us get cribs and car seats and books for our waiting room and children's toys for our visitation spaces, and all of these things that make our jobs so much easier, but are difficult to do when you work for a local government. And so Friends is an amazing partner. They can also help us with utility bills and help just supplement any sort of funding that may not do exactly what we need it to do, or maybe we don't have enough funds to do it. And so thanks, Alicia. I did not mean to forget about Friends, but I appreciate you pointing that out. So do you guys have any questions for me? I just blew you all away.
It's a lot. It's amazing.
Here at
what you all
7:30, I
do.
know. I know.
If you all ever want a boost of fun around the holidays, please volunteer for their holiday event. You go shopping with people, and it's just always a feel-good situation.
Yeah, I will do my 2-minute plug for any volunteering that anybody wants to do. So we have our holiday program. If you're so inclined, we are always recruiting foster and adoptive parents. So if you've been thinking about that, consider this the thing that pushes you over the edge to go ahead and sign up for one of our MAP classes. Friends of DSS is an entirely volunteer organization. And so if you were thinking, man, I would like to get more involved, Friends of DSS is a good entry point there. They will also accept your donations. I'm sure we would also accept your donations of toys at the holidays or funds to help us send kids to camp. So, if there's anything that we can do to partner with anybody in the community, we're always looking for those opportunities as well. So thank you guys for allowing me to speak. And just quick shout out. I don't see Karen, but I know she's on here. So quick shout out to Karen, who is one of my staff. Or are you there? I can't see you, but hi, Karen.
Hi. Sorry if I've been kind of distracted. I've got 3 animals trying to get my attention while you were talking, of course. So
fair enough.
Well, that's fine.
But I'm here.
This is all stuff she knows. So Karen, of course, works for social services. And so we're happy to have her.
Very happily.
Yeah.
She has to say that on this call, but no.
All right, so last call. Any other questions from anybody? You just
and again, feel free to take down my email and you can always reach out to me directly. That is totally fine. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a great night.
Okay. Bye, Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are actually going to finish early tonight because the transportation department was a no-show. So sorry about that. That's why I kind of packed everybody in and really made them stick to the time because I really wanted to be able to hear from everybody, but something must have come up. So I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to give you 22 more minutes back in your evening, but I guess before we finish, I just want to remind you that we're meeting next Tuesday. This is going to be a good one. It is at the Orange County Arts, Arts Mill. If you've never been there, it's in West Hillsboro. If you've ever been to Eno River Brewing, it's right behind there. It's the old mill. So is the home of the Orange County Arts Commission. And we'll be hearing that night, we'll do a tour of the Arts Mill, which is just an amazing, innovative space, and get a presentation about everything that they do. And then we'll also hear from Rachel Raper, who's our Board of Elections head, and she'll talk to us all about elections, which is never a dull subject. And then we'll also hear from Patrick Mallett, who is with the Planning and Inspections Department. They have a lot going on. So if you've ever had to apply for a permit or do anything to your house, you would have been involved with them. They approve all different active development projects around the county and whatnot. So that's what we'll be doing next Tuesday. It'll be in person. This is our only virtual meeting of the whole class, and just want to open up and see if anybody had any questions or comments before we finished.
Hey, Kristen, it's Michael. At the end of this, I've taken notes on all the budget numbers and stuff, and I kind of was looking at the Orange County budget on my other monitor while she was talking at the end. We saw like a pie chart at the first session. I feel like that had the budget split. Can we kind of just revisit that at the end? Can you, like in the last session, can we just pull that back up just so we can see now that we've had the benefit of hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, seeing how the pieces are put together?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and that'll be good timing because they're working through the budget right now. That's why everybody's in meetings constantly. So, all right. So request for looking at the budget at the end of the pie chart. Anything else from anybody?
And related to that, it would be interesting to know how much is under threat in the current federal situation.
So we are currently, if in community relations, we're working on a webpage about that. We're trying to make a dashboard that will kind of line out all the federal, state, and local funding and what it goes to, which department and which program specifically. So we should be rolling that out next week, just keeping an eye on everything and helping people to understand what's going on, and we'll change it as the picture changes.
And actually, if you have another column in that where there's some nonprofit related assistance, like it sounded like healthcare and social services both had some, at least some decent amount of, like a official 503 or 501c3 or whatever. That'd be just interesting to know about.
Okay, yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah. Any other things? All right. Well, it was great to see you virtually. I'll be looking forward to seeing you in person next Tuesday, because that's a lot more fun than this. And just again, wear good shoes, because it's not like a huge place, but we'll be walking around. And have a good rest of your night.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Bye.